Cam Ward continued his run for the Heisman Trophy this week in college football. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. We have made it to Wednesday. We are here at Hump Day, just one day short of the start of Week 4 of NFL action. Obviously, the Seahawks are going to be going a little bit later than usual this week. They will be going on Monday night. So we've got a little bit of extra time before we get to game day. But as always, Wednesday is a day where we look at college football from the most recent week. We take a look at some of the prospects that might be intriguing to the Seahawks, and we break down where we feel like things are falling for draft purposes. So this first video is going to be about the offense. We're going to do a video in a couple of hours where we go through the same thing for the defense. And by the end of those two videos, we're going to have a really good idea of which players stood out in college football this week. So, starting with the offense, we're going to do quarterbacks. Again, we are focusing on certain positions that the Seahawks might have a special interest in, and we're going to be ignoring some of the ones where I don't think there will be much interest in. So, we're going to start with the quarterbacks. There were some good ones this week. Jackson Dart had another really good game. Again, I kind of feel like he's a system quarterback. I'm not really buying this idea that he's a great pro prospect, but he'll probably get drafted, right? He'll probably be something. For Ole Miss, 22, 31, 382 yards, 4 touchdowns, a pick, and he also ran for 36 yards. So he's going to print numbers pretty much all year because of the great skill position players they got around him. They got great receivers, great tight end, great system. Things are great for him over at Ole Miss, but I don't know if I totally buy the idea that he's a pro prospect, but good play is good play. Cam Ward, little different, right? Cam Ward seems to have a little bit more of an NFL caliber skill set for the Hurricanes, and through the first few weeks of the season, he may be the best player in college football at the quarterback position. I don't know about someone like him versus Travis Hunter, who plays both sides of the ball, but Cam Ward is making a sneaky Heisman push. Another great game for him. He hasn't played a really good team yet, although part of the reason why he hasn't played a really good team is that some other teams haven't held up their end of the bargain of being decent. 24-34 for 404 yards, 3 touchdowns, a pick, and he ran for 43 yards as well. So it doesn't feel as inauthentic as it does with like Jackson Dart. These numbers feel like they mean something. So I'm high on Cam Ward. I'm a little bit worried that people are going to get a little too up on this guy and he's going to go higher than he should given his skill set. But he can play. He can definitely play. Finally appearing on this list, I was getting worried about him, Drew Allar. Drew Allar of the Nittany Lions, Penn State, finally had a notable game. Really good game. Penn State's still playing cupcakes, I get it, but 17-21 for 309, 3 touchdowns, also ran for a touchdown and 26 yards. He I don't have a great sense of whether or not I think he's going to be a good pro. I like his skill set more than some of these other guys. I'll say that much. He seems more like a pro quarterback to me than Jackson Dart. But I don't know. You put on that Penn State uniform, I immediately think you're not a legitimate NFL quarterback for some reason. Just not used to having pro level quarterbacks wearing the Penn State uniform personally. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU, had another good game. 32 of 44 for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns. Good LSU team this year offensively. And he did it against a real opponent. This was not some little Division II team. This was a real opponent that he had to go up against. Not a great team, but a real team. And then, of course, we got to put Shedeur up here because he made some of the coolest plays of the year. The double Hail Mary. Excuse me. Granted, Hail Marys, as far as the quarterback position goes, is kind of based on luck. Like, I'm not going to act like that's some great show of skill that he completed a Hail Mary. But he had a good game, right? 25 of 41 for 341, 2 touchdowns, and 19 rushing attempts. And remember how college football does it. If you get sacked, it counts as a rush. So a lot of those rushes weren't really rushes at all, but ended up rushing for positive yards, even though he got sacked 100 million times, which is crazy, and 1 rushing touchdown. Now, I mean, I'll say this. I'm pretty done with the Shedeur hype. I'm not interested in him. I think it's become very clear that there's some stuff going on with Shedeur that we don't want to touch as a team. But he remains a very fascinating figure, and he remains somebody who's playing very good football so far. So we're still going to talk about him, even if I no longer want him. Okay, that's quarterbacks. We're moving on to wide receivers now. Some really good wide receivers. This week we had Trey Harris of Ole Miss, 11 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Was definitely the big performer of the week. I wonder if Trey Harris ends up creeping into like the first round or something. I don't think he's as talented as some of these other receivers. I think he benefits from the Ole Miss system a lot, but I do wonder if the production's just going to be so off the chain this year that he ends up creeping up into like the first round just because the numbers are going to be out of pocket, like a not quite like Corey Davis like, but something similar to that. Egbuka had probably his best game of the year for Ohio State, 117 yards, 5 catches, and a touchdown. I continue to think he's going to end up being more of a slot receiver at the next level, which is a little disappointing to me. I was hoping he'd show a little bit more on the outside, but there's still time. Luther Burden, early season #1 receiver in the country, had a good game for Missouri, 6 catches, 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Still not in love with what I see with him. I think he's going to be a little bit small and play a little bit small in the NFL, but production's there. New name here. Haven't talked about this guy yet. Daniel Jackson of Minnesota, 9 catches for 112 yards. This is not a guy who is benefiting from some easy mode system. This isn't a guy who has a super duper star quarterback. This is just a good receiver prospect who is starting to creep up a little bit, had a good game. And we're going to run it back with Xavier Restrepo of Miami, one of the big targets for Cam Ward. 6 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. It seems like every game that Miami offense is doing a really good job spreading the ball around. There are like 3 guys who are just popping off. All right, now we go to tight ends here. Tight ends, pretty good this week, honestly. A lot of the weeks, tight end stuff is lean. This week, I'm actually pretty happy with what we got from the tight end spot. So, Tyler Warren for Penn State. We talked about Drew Allar earlier. Tyler Warren was one of his big targets. 5 for 50 and a touchdown. Jack Velling of MSU, Michigan State. 6 for 77. Harold Fannin Jr., Bowling Green. This guy's going to become a very interesting name, I think, by the end of the year. He's going to be one of those guys who you don't hear that much about, but at the end of the year, he's probably going to have more production than any other tight end in the nation. Kind of like last year, the Colorado State guy. 8 for 145 and a touchdown. Nesbitt, I know UNC got embarrassed. I know North Carolina got smacked around by JMU. But 4 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Good game for him. And another new name, another interesting sleeper, a Wyoming cat, John Gillenborg, 5 for 56. So there's some notable tight ends in this draft. It's not a great tight end draft, but there's a decent amount of like depth to it. I actually kind of like what's going on in that portion of the draft here as I'm starting to familiarize myself with these names. All right. So now we're going to go through the offensive line, guys. We've got a decent collection of them, and that's going to wrap up this video. So you guys know that we only look at left guard, center, right tackle guys. Again, keep in mind that you never really know where somebody's going to land at the pro game until you see them at the pro level. So there are probably some good guys that we're not talking about. But we're going to keep it to these 3 positions. And honestly, most weeks you don't have that many guys at each position that intrigue you. So I was able to dig up like 3 good left guards, 3 good right tackles, and only 1 good center this week. It was rough for the centers. I didn't see much from the centers. The top 2 interesting centers, the Alabama and Georgia guys, didn't even play. Their teams did not play this week, so it wasn't great. We did get 1 big left guard back, though. Donovan Jackson finally played, and he played a really good game. There were some cut-ups on X that I saw of him where he looked good. Didn't allow any pressures. OSU ran the ball for 280 yards, 9 yards a carry, absolutely dominant. 86.6 PFF grade, so he's good, man. He's grinding out there. Clay Webb, small school guy, Jack State. 0 pressures allowed. Jack State ran for 273 yards, 5.9 yards a carry, 83 PFF grade, so he's putting in work. I've talked about him quite a bit this year. Don't sleep on Clay Webb. Small school guy, but he can play. Garrett Dellinger of LSU was the only other guy I found that I thought played well this week. Didn't allow any pressures. LSU didn't run the ball very well, although they usually don't. They don't really have much of a rushing attack this year. They are a passing attack team. 3.6 yards a carry, 102 rushing yards. 69 PFF grade for Dellinger. He's obviously going to get lost in the sauce with the great tackle combo that LSU has this year. With Jones and I can't remember the other guy's name because I haven't been looking at him that much this year. But yeah, he's good too. They got a good offensive line at LSU. All right, the one center I found that I thought was stand out this week was Logan Jones of Iowa. And that's good. And, you know, he's a late round guy right now. He's not getting a ton of hype. He allowed one QB hit, but Iowa ran the ball for 272 yards, 6 yards a carry, so they were absolutely dominant up front. 80.2 PFF grade, so good stuff there. And hopefully next week we get better stuff from centers because they actually play. And hopefully the guys who were hyped up in the preseason, excuse me, guys like Parker Brailsford actually start playing decently. And to wrap up the video, we've got some stuff to go through at right tackle here. Remember, some of these guys are playing left tackle right now, but they project to right tackle in the NFL. Ariante Ursary of Minnesota, difficult name, first appearance on this list this year. I like him, though. Didn't allow any pressures in the game for Minnesota. Minnesota didn't run the ball that well, but like I detailed earlier with Daniel Jackson, they did throw the ball successfully. Had a good offensive performance, in terms of yards anyway. 78.1 PFF grade, so he is a name that I think will be talked about as one of the top right tackles. Obviously not as good as Emory Jones, but I think that Ursary is going to be a hot name for Seahawks fans. Cameron Williams of the University of Texas, the Longhorns, protecting the right side for Arch Manning in this most recent game. 0 pressures allowed. Texas ran the ball all over their granted very weak opponent, UL Monroe, 233 rushing yards, 4.6 yards a carry, 68.6 PFF grade. Keep an eye on him. Late round guy right now, sleeper, very much sleeper. And Armand Membo of Missouri did allow pressure, but Missouri ran the ball very well, 216 yards, 5.4 yards a carry, 78.4 PFF grade. So we're pretty happy with that. Not a bad collection of right tackle guys this week. Pretty good numbers, pretty good performances. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. I will see you guys later today. We're going to do the defense. Plenty of stuff to sort through there. And then we're going to have other videos later today as well. I know today's kind of like the day you have to get through to get to the other side to really have football stuff to go into. But we're going to get through it. We're going to have an injury report later today, obviously, which is going to be very educational. And hopefully we get good news. But I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.